Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. Before our MC, Jake Deere from Rogers TV, comes and does the formal presentation, we're going to start you off with Detective Alan Spratt, who I'd like to introduce. He is from our Financial Crimes Unit. He will be speaking to you about CRA frauds and similar frauds. We've had a lot of victimization in the community. They're just becoming so commonplace with new technology, and he's going to give you some tips and things to watch out for in order that you can keep yourself safe and prevent yourself from becoming a victim. Alan, if I could call you up. Away you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight to take a few minutes to speak to you about fraud scams. I'm going to start off and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we deal with them within Toronto Police, and give you a little bit of information on hopefully how you can protect yourself. So I have a little PowerPoint to follow along on. So I'm Detective Spratt. I'm with the Mass Marketing Unit, which is a section of the Financial Crimes Unit here at Headquarters. So the Toronto Police are a member of a partnership known as the Toronto Strategic Partnership, and I've listed the member agencies who are in the partnership. And the reason the partnership was formed is because of the phenomena of mass marketing fraud and telemarketing fraud, which crosses borders, which makes it very difficult to investigate. So we decided to form partnerships so we could assist each other and work across those borders to try and solve these crimes, and to try and prevent the crimes as well. So what is mass marketing fraud? Well, the easiest way to define it is it's any scam against the public. And I've just put up an example there. This is a text message that a victim received on their phone. And the text message was offering them a way to earn extra money by wrapping their car to advertise for a certain company or product. And what this would ultimately lead to is if the intended victim followed through, they would speak to suspects over the phone, and eventually they would receive a check for their payment and also to pay for the car wrap advertising. And the check is a fraudulent check. So what would happen is the victims would deposit the check to their account, withdraw the money, deposit it to another account to pay for the car wrap, and of course there is no car wrap. It doesn't exist. And that money they took out, they deposited to a suspect's bank account, and they would find out later from their bank that the check was fraudulent, the check was not honored, and now they would be responsible for the funds. So that's a popular scam that was happening this year, and it's very typical of a fraudulent check scam, a scam based on getting somebody to cash a fraudulent check. So one of the messages that we've been putting out for a couple of years now, and it's to help, we want to help educate the public, help educate you on how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of one of these fraud scams. And so our messaging has been that you will be targeted. It's not a question of whether someone's going to try and defraud you. That will happen. Someone's going to send you a text message. Somebody's going to send you an email. You're going to get a fraudulent telemarketing phone call. It's going to happen. Everybody gets these. So the message we're trying to get out to the public is to prepare yourself before this happens, to be ready to receive these unsolicited attempts to get your money fraudulently. And as community leaders, we really need your cooperation, your partnership to get the word out to the community about these types of scams and how to be prepared and how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim. And the way mass marketing scams work is that the suspects, and a lot of them are operated by organized crime groups. And what the suspects do is it's easy and it's inexpensive to send text messages or letters through the mail or emails to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people at a time. And so the way the scams are designed is most people won't fall for it. But for the few who do, that makes it profitable for the criminals. And I've been doing this for 10 years now, and in my experience, the people who fall victim are generally the people who have circumstances in their life where the scam makes sense at that point in their life. And that's one of the reasons why they don't question it and why they follow through with it. So I've just put up a couple things I want you to consider. One of the things we have as Canadians is we have misplaced consumer confidence. So we have established retail institutions, commercial institutions, that we know if we purchase a product or we purchase a service, that it's easy to get a refund. We can go back, and a lot of our businesses have really good policies. But what consumers do is they fail to recognize when they're dealing with an unknown entity, an unknown business, somebody they've never dealt with before, they're applying the same confidence when they shouldn't be, because now you're dealing with somebody you're not familiar with, you don't know if they really exist or not. So we have this misplaced consumer confidence, and sometimes that's what's behind a victim falling for a scam. Unwarranted trust in contracts and formal agreements. So many people in the different types of scams, when they're presented with some type of what appears to be a formal agreement, a written agreement or a contract, they have this misplaced confidence again that they're protected. But really, a contract is only good if the other party honors their end of the contract, or if you have the ability to enforce the contract when they don't. So what you have to ask yourself is, if you're engaging in a transaction that's maybe $2,000, $5,000, if the transaction goes bad, are you going to sue the person because they breached the contract? Probably not. It's probably going to cost you more money and take more time and effort. So then the reliance on the contract in the first place was a false reliance. Confusing niceness with goodness. Another aspect of this is also industry jargon or industry lingo. So often, because the person who's engaging you, it sounds nice or sounds good, people mistake that for honesty. And of course, organized crime and fraud criminals know that the way to get your money is to be nice, is to build rapport with you, to be engaging with you. That's what they do. That's what they're professional at. That's how they get your money. So that's another thing we've noticed in our investigations. And another, and I mean, I could go on all day about these topics, but I wanted just to pick some main ones. So another one is failing to independently verify the information. So often, the suspects in their scams will provide some type of information that seems to verify what they're talking about. But the problem is they're the ones who've provided you with that information. So a good example would be in a counterfeit check scheme where the check itself has a phone number for the bank. And we had one scam where they actually had a suspect who would answer that phone and pretend to be the bank. And of course, it's a fraudulent check, and they've backstopped it with that fraudulent number. So to independently verify that, you want to do your own search of the bank and find a number not provided to you by the suspect, as one example. So what are the types of scams we're talking about here? And again, I could go on for a long time, but I just put down a few main ones here. So we have the Revenue Canada scam, the grandparent or emergency scam. There's a lot of employment and work at home scams, similar to the text message for the car wrapping. There's still a lot of lottery and sweepstakes scams where you receive some type of notification that you've won some type of sweepstakes. Advance fee loans, where the suspects pretend to be an online loan company, and they offer loans, and it's just a ruse to get you to pay some type of fee to get a loan, and the loans don't exist. Of course, there's a renovation home repair scams, public utility scams. There's a lot of online auction tickets for sporting events, concerts, and things like that are false, and affinity frauds. And affinity frauds is when the suspects target a specific group or association, and they build trust in that group or association so they can then exploit that trust to defraud anybody in the group. So An example would be like some type of religious affiliation, a community affiliation, where the suspects will target that specific group. So one of the things we do is we put out public awareness or public warning news releases to the media, and the media are pretty good at picking these up. And we put quite a few out there, and just as an example, here's one that went out about the CRA scam, and CBC picked it up, and that was back in June of 2015. Here's another one that's in November 21st of 2015. And here's another one on March 9th, 2016, which was again rebroadcast on June 15th. So the messaging that we do, we hope prevents some people from being victims, but it doesn't prevent everybody. This CRA scam in particular is still strong, it's still happening, it's still victimizing people. So as much as we put out public warnings, we really need the partnership of community leaders and community groups to help take the message out in their communities to educate the communities. And again, I can't emphasize enough that our message is to be prepared. You will be targeted in one shape or form. Someone's going to try and scam you out of your money. So just a typical example of some work that we did do, and it wasn't a big case, it was a small case by officers at 43 Division a couple years ago. And in that particular CRA scam, the suspects were directing the victims to buy prepaid Visa cards. And then the victims would call the suspect back, and they would give them the PIN number from that prepaid Visa. And then the suspects would use that information to load that value onto other cards. And then there was one particular suspect in Scarborough who was going around to ATM machines cashing out the value of those cards. So the detective at 43 Division got a warrant to serve on the banks to get those ATM images. He was able to identify one suspect and charge that suspect. So in that particular case, he was able to attribute just over $10,000 loss to that one suspect. And the suspect was eventually pled guilty and got a suspended sentence and probation. So that's kind of on the lower end. In addition to that, in that investigation, the officer also contacted the RCMP liaison officer because the suspect here was actually operating on instructions from people in India. So we were able to contact the RCMP officer to pass that information along to authorities in India. And that's the type of thing we do in these types of investigations, because most of these fraud scams cross borders in one way or another. And the suspects do that on purpose, knowing that it makes it more difficult for us when we don't have the laws outside of our own country. So that's one of the reasons for our partnerships in doing these investigations. So this is a different investigation, but it's, again, an example of the type of work we do. So officers stopped a person for going through a red light in downtown Toronto a few years back. And when they were talking to him, some fake IDs actually fell out of the car. So the officers arrested the suspect, seized the material, and there were some notebooks. And we had these numbers written down in the notebooks. And is anyone here a Western Union agent? Does anybody have in their business? So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the MTCM number is what identifies, it's a money transfer control number, and that identifies a money transfer sent through Western Union. So when we looked into that, we found out that these numbers, or these transfers were sent by the victim of a grandparent scam. So why did the suspect have on those? So then further notes in the suspect's essentially was an accounting journal. So we found this name, and below it was a phone number, which I've redacted. So we called that phone number, and this was a lady in Wisconsin who, through the grandparents scheme, was defrauded of $30,000. So her grandparent, who was supposedly the one who called and said he had some type of emergency and needed money, his name was Matthew Martin. So that was one of the fake IDs. So, and that's not the suspect who was arrested. We actually don't know who that individual is on the card. That's why I blanked out his eyes. But that's what was found. So so this suspect had the information about the fraudulent wire transfers and the fake ID for the suspect who went and picked the money up. Here's another example of fake ID that was used in the same scam. It was for a different victim who sent money. And I don't know if anybody recognizes the photo there, but you might recognize it now, maybe. So that's that's how brazen the suspects are. They think they'll never get caught because they're hiding behind a computer or they're hiding behind a phone. And with technology, there's a lot of things that they can do to prevent themselves from being traced. But of course, there's always other techniques to get at the suspects. So they're pretty brazen when they do this. Here's another example of one. Some laughs, so they must recognize that. And then there's the real. So, and these were just, the photos were like one page of Google searches to find the actual photo that the suspects used. So, and of course, now anyone can create these with Photoshop or other similar software and simple tools. So here's one that so this is a template for a fake ID that we actually extracted from a suspect's computer. So we got a warrant for the suspect's condo, seized his computer, and here's an ID that he obviously was in the process of making because as you can see, the photos don't match. So the suspect hadn't even finished making this photo. So one of the things I wanted to point out by showing these photos is not just that suspects are adept at making fake ID, but in our age with technology, things aren't always what they seem. It's very easy for suspects to create something that appears to be real and it's not. So things like websites, ID, false companies, and that's how the tools the suspect used to commit these mass marketing frauds. So when you're presented with some type of pitch or some type of telemarketing offer, then you have to consider, is this real? Because it's very easy to make it look real when it's not. So some of the reasons why mass marketing crimes are so successful, and I think probably everyone here realizes that because everyone here has probably received some type of solicitation. And so there's generally no contact between suspects and victims. It's done through third parties. It's done through phone services, through internet services, through text messaging, emailing, mailing, things like that. And what we found in our investigations, the suspects often even steal those services. So they'll use stolen credit card data to pay their phone bills, to pay their internet bills, to pay the web hosting services, to host their websites. As I mentioned earlier, the schemes are based on a high volume attack, and you only need a low rate of success to make a lot of money. Another thing they take advantage of is that the victims and the evidence trail itself are spaced over wide geographical areas. So a suspect could be in Toronto and they could be texting you through an app, but that app is a US company, so the communication's actually going through a server in the US, and as Canadian law enforcement, we don't have access to that information unless we can get a US partner to assist us. So what they do is they break our trail to be able to follow them just by crossing international boundaries, and that's just one example. And then another thing we put is suspects take advantage of our own failings, like ignorance, apathy, and some of the scams are specifically designed to attack our own instincts. So like the CRA scam often threatens arrest or lawsuits. And, our instincts is like, we don't want to get in trouble, right? We want to avoid trouble. We don't want to be in trouble with the police, the authorities, the law. So we want to take care of the problem. So they actually use our instincts. The grandparent scam is the grandparent's instinct to help their grandchild, right? They're taking advantage of that. And another issue we have in a lot of our investigations in Canada is sort of the privacy concern and the privacy threshold. And not that I'm against privacy, don't get me wrong, but it does take an extra step to get this in, because remember, the suspects are doing everything through third parties. They're sending you the check by a courier. They're using phone service to speak with you. They're using email service. So for us to get that information, we have to do warrants. And often what happens with institutions that hold this information is, even in cases when they can release information to us, usually the default position is that they feel they can't because they're afraid they'll get in trouble for breaking privacy laws. So that actually benefits the suspects. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here, but one of the last things I wanted to talk about, and unfortunately it's a boring subject, but I think it's really, really highly relevant. And one of the things that we don't look at is the payment system itself. So a lot of these fraud scams will use payment systems that most of us don't normally use, or we use infrequently, or we use for different reasons, like we don't use them to buy products or to buy services. And what we have to consider is, if I make this payment using this system, do I have any recourse? And when I say recourse, what I mean is practical recourse. Again, legally you might be entitled to sue somebody, but are you really going to do that? So for example, a money transfer service business. Once you transfer your money, it's gone. Money transfer service businesses don't hold money on deposit like a bank. The second you transfer that money, it's gone. There's no way to get your money back. So is that a payment system you want to use for somebody you don't know? Probably not. Email money transfers. Does anybody here use email money transfers? Right. So I use email money transfers myself. They're very convenient. But our advice is you never ever use it for somebody you don't know, because if the transaction goes bad, all you have is a name and an email address. And how easy is that to falsify? I mean, you don't even know what bank account the money went to. So again, when we get engaged in transactions, we have to consider, what is the method of payment? Do I trust this method? And if this transaction goes wrong, can I get my money back? And I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Detective Alan Spratt. Some wonderful information there. And oftentimes folks from our community do not really come forward, and you folks as community leaders, service providers, and certainly the media, we all have a role to play in trying to get this information out. So we really thank each and every one of you for being here and getting this information to our communities, and especially in the language that they understand, right? Which is very important, especially as the detective said, with families and seniors and so on. So look at that picture. Isn't that a nice picture? Well, good evening and welcome to the Toronto Police Services Meet and Greet for Community Leaders. My name is Jake Deere. I am the Senior Manager for Omni Television and Rogers Media. This is hosted by the Chief South and West Asian Community Consultative Committee. We'll introduce these folks later on. And really, folks, as I mentioned earlier, tonight is a great opportunity for you as leaders and service providers from the South Asian and the West Asian communities to really connect, discuss issues, concerns, and challenges that are taking place in our community. And, we want to hear your suggestions. By we, collectively, and certainly with the Toronto Police Services, they want to hear your suggestions on how we can all work together to bring about solutions for our families so we can all be safer. And tonight, because it is the festive season, we always do this towards this time of the year. It's also a festive time. I often find, this is all, we have Eid, we had Eid earlier, and then you have Diwali, Gurupurv, Christmas, Hanukkah. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's just a festive time, and it's a way for us to get together and just celebrate the season. And also to celebrate community partnerships and the real diversity of our beautiful city. When you look around you, we have wonderful diversity here And I know that the Toronto Police Services have other community groups as well who they engage with. At the end of the day, it's everyone's responsibility, right? It's not just the Toronto Police Services who can do it alone. We all have a role to play. So for those of you tweeting, please use hashtag TPS, meet and greet. So there's no spaces, just hashtag TPS, meet and greet. A few other items. The main exit is located behind you next to the registration tables in case you need to make a quick dash for whatever reason. There are 2 emergency exits behind me to the left and right. In the event that we do have to leave, please follow directions from the uniformed officers. Washrooms are located on this floor, and on the lower level you can ask an officer for directions. Please do not wander around the halls or you'll be sent to the principal's office. I'd like to invite the code. I used to always get that, be wandering, and then before you know it, I was in the principal's office, but that's a different story. I'm dealing with those issues. I'd like to invite the co-chairs of the Chief South and West Asian Community Consultative Committee up, and these 2 gentlemen are absolutely wonderful. I've known both of them for a number of years. Please welcome Inspector Rick Hagedis and Mr. Haroon Khan.
Thank you so much, Jake, and thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And I hope you can hear me. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Richard Hagedis. I'm an acting superintendent. I'm the disciplinary hearings officer, or the adjudicator for the service. And what that means is if police officers commit misconduct, sometimes they end up in front of me. And it is what it is. I bring you greetings from Chief Mark Saunders. As you know, or you may know, Chief Saunders had some very invasive surgery a few short months ago. His wife donated a kidney to him, so his primary caregiver was also a patient, and they are recuperating well, and he will be back to work, but he couldn't make the event tonight. He's only made 1 public appearance in the last couple of months, but he sends his greetings. So on behalf of the Toronto Police Service and on behalf of all the officers who are here and the members of the service, thank you very much for coming. I'm the co-chair, along with Mr. Haroon Khan, and I'll introduce him shortly, of the Chiefs South and West Asian Community Consultative Committee. And there are a number of consultative committees in the city. And those consultative committees allow us to do our work and reach out to members, as evidenced by everybody who is here tonight. Thank you so much for coming. As you know, Toronto is one of the most multicultural cities in the world. There are over 140 different languages and dialects spoken in this city. And fully half the people in Toronto are not from Toronto, whether they've been here for 4 decades or 4 months, or as in the case of a couple of gentlemen I met at the beginning of the evening, just a few days. And it's so refreshing to see everyone come in and share a meal with us and share a conversation. The South and West Asian community is one of the largest identifiable communities in the city of Toronto, comprising over 12% of the population of the city. That's 300,000 plus people. You're very important to the entire city. So with that in mind, one of the significant issues that we deal with as a police service is trust from the community. And one of our significant challenges is overcoming fear and distrust, because so many people are not from here. They bring cultures and expectations and experiences with them in regards specifically to the police. And the police here are not like the police in a lot of other places. A lot of other places around the world, there are issues with corruption. The police are dangerous. The police are not to be trusted. You wouldn't find yourself in a police station in a lot of countries voluntarily. People bring that negative perception with them, and it's especially prevalent in the South and West Asian community. What that means is, because people have a fear and distrust of the police, they're reluctant to report a crime. They're reluctant to be a witness in court. They're reluctant to help. But what that does is it makes the people in that community prone to victimization because they won't report it and they become victims of frauds like the CRA frauds and all the other frauds and scams that you heard about. So I just want to share a personal story with you. So my parents were new Canadians. They came here some time ago. My dad had to flee his country. My mother came here she was just a teenager. They both came with nothing, maybe a suitcase. I'm thinking, couldn't speak the language. And they were in the same position as a lot of people have found themselves in over the years. So I was born here, just down the road at Toronto General Hospital. I grew up here. So those experiences and the fear and distrust of police, I didn't grow up with it. So I didn't, even though I know police around the world or new police around the world are not necessarily what they are here, it didn't really mean anything to me. It didn't, in the back of my mind I knew, but it didn't hit home. A couple of years ago, that's an emergency phone call. It might be a CRA scam. Don't answer it. A few years ago, an aunt and uncle of mine came to visit Toronto. They'd never been out of their own country. They come from a small European country. And a place, small towns where the buildings are 2 or 3 stories tall. You could call it a village. I'll call it a town. I got to be a tour guide in my own city. I'm very proud of Toronto. Toronto is one of the best cities in the world. There's so much to offer here. It's a safe place. So we went to places like to share an example, my uncle had never seen a skyscraper before. So as we're walking up Bay Street through the financial district, he's there with his brand new camera, right? We went to Chinatown, and they were amazed that they sell live crabs in a bucket at the street corner, and that was also the subject of photographs. My aunt had never been on a boat, so we went on a boat out in the harbor. We went up the CN Tower, we went on the subway, we went to the Eaton Center. So we spent 2 full days touring Toronto, and they were thrilled. So on the second day, we're walking along Dundas Avenue, near University Avenue, and 52 Division Police Station is almost on the corner. So I said, come on, let's go in, we'll get a tour. I know a whole bunch of officers, and both my aunt and uncle did this. We can't go in there. I said, why not? They go, that's a police station. And I see from the smiles on your faces that you know exactly what they were thinking. Because in a lot of places around the world, people don't want anything to do with the police. I had to physically drag them almost into the police station. They got a tour for an hour plus. They met many nice officers. And at the end of it, they said, wow, that was great, but it's not like that back home. So that's one of the significant challenges we have to overcome. I didn't feel it deep down until that happened to me, and now I get it. I understand. So thank you so much for coming to our police headquarters. I know a lot of you, and just in speaking with some of you earlier, I've never been to a police station before, let alone come voluntarily, let alone going to talk with a bunch of police officers and share a meal with some of us in a little while. So thank you so much. Thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone. Thank you for coming, and we hope to make some new friends and some new partnerships tonight. So the objectives of the Chief's consultative committees are to build trust, identify community groups and assets who will partner with us and help to make things better and improve the quality of life in the city. Identify issues that are of concern in your various communities, and we'll work together to help you either overcome them or provide education, as the detective did a little earlier. Provide some strategies regarding things like extremism or mental health issues or elder abuse or other victimization or newcomers to the country. And our goal is to work together, increase our partnerships, and add value and increase our reporting of things that are affecting you. So I'd just like to introduce, and he's been standing here very patiently, Mr. Haroon Khan to say a few words. Mr. Khan is the co-chair of the Chiefs South and West Asian Consultative Committee. I'm the present co-chair, but that changes. So I'm the rookie in this committee. I've been here 3 years, volunteering my time. Mr. Khan is 25 years plus, all volunteer time, all done to make things better in his neighborhood and the community and for all of us here today. So thank you, Mr. Khan, and I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank
I'm not going anywhere.
I do need protection.
Don't worry.
While I'm at the headquarters, I need protection. Good evening, Honorable Council Generals, member of the media, member of the police department, and all friends from different organizations. Good evening, and I'm very, very proud to see all of you here. It's a dry evening, it's a Friday evening, all of you are tired, but you decided to come and join us. It's great. Can you clap for yourself, please? Would I kindly invite my committee members, Kanelia, Raja, Emil, Zul, and Sami. Now, due to some unavoidable circumstances, one of the committee member is not here today. She is active, but I think something goes wrong and she's not here. Now, the reason Inspector has given you all the details of our presence, what do we do, but we are trying to bridge the gaps between the police and the community, especially the South Asian community where most of us came, and he already said that the police in our countries, unfortunately, is not as friendly as these police force here. I think this is the fifth chair, the fifth chief of police I am working with, and every chief of police is better than the previous one, and I'm very proud. And whenever I see these chiefs, they usually come to my home, private dinners. I cannot imagine this will happen into my home country, unless and until I send them a big gift or whatever, then only they will come. Otherwise, but a common person like me cannot imagine to call a chief of police or even stand beside an inspector or all the brass is standing here. So I am very grateful to a lot of things. Number one, I'm grateful to God that they have sent us to this beautiful country, which I called the best country on earth. After saying that, I'm very proud of the Toronto Police Service. It's not that because I'm a member of their committee, but this is one of the best police force we can get. This is the best. I have chances to meet police forces from European countries. They come at the headquarters and they invite me and they ask how you as a South Asian are so close to the police, and I tell them that this is what you call the Toronto Police Service. So we are proud. Other than they are here to protect us, they are here to bridge the gaps. They want us to be close to them. Otherwise, we would not have been here. This is all the chief, the present chief, the previous chief, they all always wanted us to be there, to close to them so that our problems can be resolved. They want to know what our community problems are, which again is something grateful. As a committee, we have taken some parts in some things. We were a part of the Sri Lankan Diwali New Year. We were a part of Microsoft Safety Information Session where they have taught us again what the detective has taught us. We have gone through that with Microsoft. We have one more thing which we have done. We have invited the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. For the first time in 150 years of Ontario and Canada history, she came as a guest of this committee, which was one of a kind. We have attended Khalsa Day Parade. We have attended meetings with the second in command of the Canadian Navy, came to us to meet us, and again, they wanted to meet the community, and this committee is proud that we hosted him. And other than that, we have resolved some community problems. I think they are here. I got a call from a very good friend, media member, and she said that somebody in Brampton has received a letter, and they copied me the letter. The letter has a gun, has a pistol, has a knife, has a sword, and then it has red drops there. And the letter is sent to a female, and it says at the bottom, which one would you like? So, of course, it was reported to the police department, but I think the police, they go through a lot of these cases, so they did not give a proper attention to that letter. But when it came to me, I called the chief's office, and it was resolved and they caught the person. So this is the kind of things we do. We can only request the police officers to look at our complaint, but since they know we are working for the community, they listen to us a little bit harder way. That's what it is. We are here to serve you. These are the members. And I'm sure we are here to ask you, keep us in your mind. If the community member has any problem which has related to the police, please contact us. We will be more than happy to come and try to resolve the matter. Thank you so very much. Now, of course, all these members, all of you are here because I think this is our probably 4th year, but today's number has doubled the number of last year. This is all because of these members, and especially Johnny Bobley, who is right here. Can you come here, please? Now, this is the liaison officer the police department has given us, and his job is to work between us and the headquarters and inspector. A wonderful police officer. He has worked enormously to put this evening together, and he's always there whenever a problem comes. I mean, my first contact, instead of going to the brass, I go to him. I said, this is the problem. Somebody is calling me. Johnny, what do we have to do? He was away for his holidays, I think last week. And I was bugging him every day what to do, what not to do. And I asked him, I said, why you have to take a week off when you know we are having this big function? And he has his own reasons. He said, I had to take time off. But Johnny, thank you very much. I apologize to disturb you in your holidays. But if I wouldn't have disturbed you, this wouldn't have happened. Thank you so very much. We will have a couple of presentations in a few minutes, and after that, we will try to serve you some very simple dinner.
Introduce community members.
Yes. Now, we have Raja, Canelia, Emil, Zul Qasimali was the previous co-chair. He worked on this committee for about 25 years. He's busy with some other projects in the community. And then we have Sammy. Sammy is a teacher in profession, and he wrote, the reason I'm going on Sammy, he wrote a book on Canada. 1 or 2 books, how many?
3.
3 books. So that shows his love for this country.
And the last book, I bought the first one.
Oh, you bought the first one, but he gave me a gift because he knows that I can't afford. I'm not a police officer. I can't afford to buy a book. So he gave it to me. Sorry, Inspector. Anyway, thank you so much, and I will ask Jake to continue. No, you guys have Zol, stay. Hold on this.
Yep, if we just shift over a wee bit.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Folks, we do have, and Haroon is right. This is actually much bigger than it has been in previous years, and so thank you for being here. Yes, move a little bit over. Not that you smell or anything, but you're wonderful. We have some very special friends. Each and every one of you is very special, but we have some folks here from the consulates, and if I can please ask the consul generals and their representatives to please rise and just, if you could just say who you are and which wonderful country you represent would be great. And that we can do that. So who wants to go first? Yes.
Douglas Miller. I'm representing the U.S. Consulate in Toronto.
Douglas, very good to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here. Thank you. All right, the United States is represented here. Yes, sir?
Representing Mauritius on behalf of Bansini.
Okay. All right. Very good. Are you giving away a free ticket to Mauritius at all or anything?
If I get a few, yes, I can share.
You know, the former Consulate General of India for Toronto, Mr. Mishra, is in Mauritius, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yes.
I'm Jauhar, a Sri Lanka consulate in India.
Very good, sir. Good to have you here. Yes, sir? Uzbekistan. Joe, good to have you here. Sorry, I know you've been standing for a while. Go ahead.
Tevfik Aydonur, representing Canadian, Turkish. Well, just my heart added Canadian Turkish Consulate of Canada, Erdeniz Şen.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Did you bring any Turkish delight for us? You know that little delicious Turkish delights that you have? And hard? Who cares about hard? I want the real thing. I'm kidding. Thank you. Who else? Yes, sir. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. My name is Gopal Bhandari. I'm from Nepalese Community Services. On behalf of Nepalese Community Services, just thank you, everybody, and thanks for coming back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhandari. Thank you for being here, sir. We really appreciate it. Yes.
Council Yan Baobab from the People's Republic of China.
Oh, very good. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm Sachiko. I'm with Vice Consul Hashimoto. We are from Japan, Japanese consul.
Oh, very good. Welcome. Welcome. Anybody else? No? All right. We do have, I believe we have a Chief of Staff here from the, yes.
One last one.
One last one. Where? Put your hand up, stand up.
No? Wait.
Who are you looking for?
Rick Hegedus, Toronto Police.
Rick Hagedis, the Consulate General for the Toronto Police Services. You're from, thank you very much for telling us you're from Mississauga. I need a ride later. And this is the committee that gets you involved and engaged, but I commend each and every one of you as leaders and service providers, and to the media. I see so much paparazzi here. It's so important that you are here to get this message across to our communities, and we really thank you for being here. And you know, we've got a couple of more recognitions, and then that'll be followed by an incredibly delicious meal. You're going to enjoy it, and please, that's what this is all about. It's about sharing and connecting, and please do meet with the inspectors and meet with Johnny Bobley. He is absolutely terrific, very engaged guy, and cares and is very accessible, and that's very important, right? All right, I talked about building positive relationships, interacting with the police, I already told you that. I did all that stuff, look at that, in my own words. So now we're going to take a few minutes to just thank a couple of our folks who really build positive relationships and community relationships. So I'm going to invite Rick and Haroon back up here for some very special recognitions.
I'm back just to say a couple of words about Mr. Jake Dheer. Jake I met about 25 years ago. And he's one of the examples of Canada, how people can grow up. When I met him, I think he was a college student, university student, but then he has taken the peak. He is one of the highest employee in Rogers Group. He was the manager. I don't know how many thousands of people he had until Rogers decided to close the sections, but now he's transferred to Omni. And he is, whatever function I go, he is my MC. I had to plan my function with his schedule. And I apologize for the delay today. Let me just tell you the reason we have been few minutes delay is the gentleman had to fly from Ottawa and he landed here. Because of us, he landed instead of Pearson, he landed at Toronto airport and he had to take a cab. Johnny Bobley refused to send a police car to take my guest, but that is Johnny Bobley. That's why I'm talking so good. So next time I need some help, Johnny will be more helpful to me. So this,
we need to be fiscally responsible. So.
No, that's
well, so anyway, that's Jake here. Jake, I'm sorry I couldn't send you a cruiser because a couple of people asked me, why didn't you send the cruiser? I said, I wish if I'd be the chief chair, but not. Now, the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. I'm very proud and to introduce you Mr. Sabir Gaya. Sabir Gaya is a name in the South Asian community. Again, I have to say he is been in the photography business for the last, I don't know how many years, so I do not want to say any years, otherwise he will come after me. But it has to be over 30 years, so I'm safe there. So Sabir is a wonderful man. He covers all of our function. And I always tell him there is no credit card or no check has been printed so we can pay him. So this is how it is. No check, no bills. So Sabir, I'm grateful to you. Would you please come here?
Can we just invite Inspector Dave Ritzik to come up as well and join the line? Thank you.
And who else? Okay.
Thank you very much.
And if I can have the honor of retired Deputy Kim Derry, if you can kindly join us.
He's going to give me? Thank you.
And it's a selfie. He's got to do a selfie.
He's got to do camera as well.
He wants to make sure his photo comes.
I don't understand how God is kind to some people. Look at the hair on this guy and look at the hair on... Somebody have scissors?
Jake, you can say that because you don't have hair, right?
I know.
If you want to borrow, I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Abhi. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabir. Apna Jare. Now, the second person I would like to call is Mr. Safir Mufti. He is doing the same thing. He is in the community service and practical service. I only come here to talk and things like that. These people, they practically put their mind, their time, and their efforts to serve the community. So please, Safir Mufti, Mr. Mufti, please. He wants to make sure his photo comes good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it for me, and now we will have another presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, Haroon. Okay, you know what? Very quickly, I gotta share this with you. So you many of you see me at community events and stuff like that, and doing this sort of stuff. My first MC gig that I was asked to MC, first ever, I was a volunteer at Rogers, and Haroon called me. Haroon used to do the first Canada Day celebrations by the South Asian community. He used to do that. This was about 20 odd years ago. And he used to do that. So he called Rogers and said, we're looking for an MC. I was volunteering. They asked me, that was my first MC gig. So this man started it all. And thank you for but you know, that's about us as in a relationship. But Haroon is a terrific community guy. If you ever need anything, and it doesn't matter which faith you belong to, but if you need something done sincerely, this is the man that gets it done. And we're really proud of the work that you're doing, sir. He's also launched a wonderful school in Pakistan, and I see all the great work that he's doing there, because education is so important. All right, so we want to also invite, so these guys are back up here. I'd like to invite our wonderful Consul General for Sri Lanka, Consul General Muhammad Johar, from the Sri Lankan Consulate for a very special presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me, co-chairs Richard and Haroon and Johnny, Jake. You would see why Sri Lanka's Consul General is here. In the community, you will see 3 members are from the Sri Lankan community. So we have a large presence, and our people contribute to Canada's economy, they contribute to Canada's law enforcement, they contribute to everything. We have a huge diaspora here, and they are doing wonderful contribution to Canada's development. And I'm very pleased and proud that one of my countrymen, his name is Niran Jayanesan. You all know about him, you all know what he had done, how he handled intelligently, and he avoided a gentleman becoming a criminal. And he used his intelligence to ensure that a person who doesn't have a job, unemployed, to get a job, and without, he had an opportunity to convict him, but he didn't do. Therefore, I think it's my pleasure to hand over this commendation to Niran Jayanesan on behalf of Sri Lankan Consulate for his wonderful service to the community.
Thank you. A little bit forward. There we go. That's it. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words? Thank you. Thanks.
My name is Constable Niran Jayanesan, and I've been an officer for 3 years. I would like to start by thanking the Toronto Police Service for allowing me to be part of this organization. Like many of you here today, I myself immigrated to this country in the early 2000s, driven by my own dreams and aspirations. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was well worth it. This country welcomed me into the world of opportunity, which was made possible through education and employment. I was given the choice to be whoever I wanted to be, and I chose the life of service. Service to this country, service to the city, service to you. As the TPS service strives to modernize itself, we do by working towards building effective partnerships between our service and important community stakeholders, such as yourselves. We all have the shared responsibility to ensure public safety. Let's continue to work together to build partnerships, to increase trust and confidence in the police and improve the lives of each and every member of this great city. I encourage you to invite your local police service for all your local events. You can contact Johnny Bobley either by email or his cell phone, and I strongly encourage you to invite us. Let me finish by saying this quote by John Wellesley. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite Ryman Mahmood from the BCCB Foundation to come up here as well. And Ryman will be getting a special recognition as well. But before you do that, do you want to come up and say a few words as well, Ryman, about your organization?
Before my organization, I would like to say one thing. I don't have hair, right? That everybody can see. But the best thing is that I'm just right beside Rogers and Omni TV MC, and I'm just thinking maybe in future he's going to think that, okay, these guys also can talk. So thank you so much for introducing me. Before taking whatever, I don't know, it is completely unsurprised for us. The community that we work for, actually about a year and a half plus before, we just thought that let's do something for Canada. Let's do something for our community. You build your community means you are building the Canada that you are in love with, that I'm in love with, all of us we are in love with, right? As we started doing or starting this journey that we call Journey of Hope, surprisingly, over 17,000 members from Bangladeshi Canadian communities and Canadian Bangladeshi communities that joined the movement. And today, across different platforms of BCCB, more than 40,000 connections are there. We identified different stakeholders important to us. Thanks to one man, I actually sent out an email to our chief, and thanks to one man, Johnny, and Johnny, I want you to be here. He responded, and that response has so much of heart in it, and I just felt that I'm welcomed. And that was the start of a partnership with the Toronto Police Service. And I can tell you, on behalf of all BCCBians, all Bangladeshi Canadians and Canadian Bangladeshis, if you kindly stand up, everybody there, right? All of us, we just want to say how deeply and profoundly we are thankful that we have started this amazing partnership. I personally knew police is here to help us. I personally believe in that. But as you said that there are times, there are skepticism, there are fears, and all these things. What Bangladeshi Canadian communities or Bangladeshi communities in Canada are doing is targeting towards establishing one of the best relationships that all the communities across here, and we are here, will set up. That will be an example for not only Canada, but for the world to follow. And that's my hope. And I just wanted to thank each and everyone standing here. Harun Bhai, thank you so much for inviting to also attend the committee meeting. To the officers here, David and Johnny, without you, possibly none of this would have been possible, at least for our community. And I want to take this recognition, whatever is coming, very humbly, not for myself, but on behalf of these 17,000 BCCBians and each and every Bangladeshi Canadians and Canadian Bangladeshis that are in Canada. I want to end by saying one thing. I know I am bald. Everybody can see that. And then I figured out a way to turn it into a positive, just like the way Johnny turned that one email into a movement, right? So I started telling Jake, bald is beautiful. Bald is bold. And when you are bold, each and every one in this room, you can change the world. You can change the world starting from you. Thank you so much to the police service, to everyone present. Amazing.
Raman, please walk there. Congratulations. Ryman and I are going to start a Facebook page, Bald is Beautiful. We're the two co-chairs. I see Ahmed here. I see everybody. Anybody else? You're getting there, yes.
We'll get somebody.
We'll get people. Ryman, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. A very, very special thank you to all our media that are here. Thank you to each and every one of you that are here. That's terrific, and I can't recognize everybody, but one of the persons we do want to recognize, because he's been there, I think, for a very, very long time. He probably by now understands Hindi and Punjabi and Urdu, and that's Alex. Alex from Asian Television Network. Alex, thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. Alex loves Indian food. He'll be the first one in line, but he'll continue to do his job as well. I do love the man. Also want to recognize Sintuyan Jigatiswaran, and I apologize if I didn't do that justice, from Canada Border Services Agency. I want to recognize you in case I need you.
Did you hear what he said? Yes. Keep an eye on this guy.
We're best friends now. Actually, yes, okay, here we go. We're gonna wrap it up very soon, folks. We've just got a wonderful meal that's set up outside. And don't just eat your meal and then just leave. Please take this opportunity to really connect with each and every one of our committee members, our police officers, the folks in uniform, and our detective is still here as well. And if you have any questions or comments, this is about engagement, right? This is about celebration, but it's about engagement as well. So a few people to thank from Divisional Policing Support Unit, Inspector David Ritzik. Thank you very much. Staff Sergeant Kenny Ho. Sergeant Phil Mendoza.
They're getting the food ready.
They're getting the food ready. All right. Well, carry on. The officers in the blue shirts are members of our auxiliary program. The Toronto Police Service has over, I don't know if you knew this, 350 volunteer officers, folks, volunteer officers. And annually, they contribute over 80,000 volunteer hours. So with us today, we have Kim Rugbir. Kim, put your hand up. Kim Rugbir. He's probably preparing food too. Roshan Giasingam. Paul Chan. There's Paul over there. And Rogan Kirbiak. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hussain, PC Hussain from 55.
Oh, Mr. PC Hussain from 55. Where's Mr. Hussain?
Right there.
Well, there you are, that tall fella there. All right, so tonight we've been talking a lot about community partnerships. So what can you do? Well, if you haven't already done, please fill out the sign-in forms at the front tables. That's very important because that's how we get engaged. Please introduce yourself to a member of the consultative committee and make sure you exchange contact information with our wonderful liaison. That's very important. Johnny is your contact along with this wonderful committee. You know, they can really help you guys whenever you need them, and they've proven that. Right? I hope you understand that. So, again, I think that's all I got. No, oh my God, there's one last page. This is all, so I already said. The committee is hoping to connect with you in the new year to learn more about the organizations, agencies, and communities you represent. So it just doesn't end here, right? It's about continuous engagement. So please connect with them. And also do think about ways in how best to bring the police out to your communities, right? And they're very happy to do that. If you see from the pictures, sometimes the police simply coming out and meeting with you and your organizations is all that's necessary, right? And if you need somebody who speaks a certain language, speak with them, speak with Johnny, and maybe they can come out and bring somebody who speaks that language as well. At the end of the day, it's about connections, right? It's about engagement and interaction. All right, I think it's time for dinner. I will make an announcement once dinner is ready, and then please do meet and mingle and enjoy your food. All right?
Just give us a couple of minutes.
Oh, just, Haroon's gonna go check on the food. All right, in the meantime, thank you very much for being here. God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful holiday season, and do stick around. We'll let you know when dinner is ready.
Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you.
Excellent job as always.
Thanks. Thanks for excellent.
You put everybody at ease, and you're their friend, right?
Can you have a card or some kind?
My card?
Thank you. Thanks for